Hey guys, here we are for video number 2. So, hope everyone's doing well. Last time we ran the Brad pen / pen grade, whatever you want to call it, 2050. It did pretty decent. But today I have intentions of running a different oil. Still haven't set up my weight stuff yet, but we'll get there. So I forgot to add, obviously, like and subscribe. So basically, as I said in the last video, abrasion tester, everything's the same. So we started out with a new race. I'm sorry, not a new race. We cleaned it up. So it's polished up. We have a new spot on the bearing here, actually right next to the Brad pen mark that we ran in the last video. So we can use these bearings multiple times until we get to the 360-degree side where it's eaten up all the way around. So I have plenty of these bearings to test, so don't ever have to worry about running out of them. But essentially, we're searching for knowledge, trying to improve things. So furthermore, I guess let's get going on the Vr1 and see how it goes. So we got a bottle of Vr1 right here, and we're going to open her up, put a little bit in here. More than enough. Probably a little bit too much, but that's okay. So, gonna make sure we have our torque wrench at the right angle that we had last time. And, yep, right about there. So, new bearing, clean, turn the machine on. Oops, we forgot to plug the machine in. All right, now let's try that again. Turn the machine on. So today we're running, it's like about 5.6 amps. It's fluctuating just a little bit, but you get the idea. So furthermore, let's see how the Vr1 does versus how the pen grade does. See if the auto parts store value is better. Be curious, something that you can get every day, everywhere, versus something that you have to order or get from a dealer, and usually it costs more. So let's see if it's actually any better, or if it has the same, worse. We're gonna find out. So, because everyone can claim this, that, and the other, doesn't necessarily mean that their oil is actually better. Everyone has their own beliefs in what they run. Everyone pretty much is like, oh, I ran this because this, that, and the other, this. There's not really much proof behind it other than personal preference. Sure, the oil manufacturers have specs and all this other stuff, but let's see how they actually do in a real world test. Basically, this would simulate similar to your upper rod bearing that a lot of us sport front wheel drive cars, xstreet, whatever you want to call us, are having a lot of wear issues on the top bearing. Like I said in the last video, people like to show the lower bearing that is not really seeing a whole lot of the load, versus the top bearing is the one that's basically getting hammered on by the piston. So flip her on over, turn the torque wrench on. I can increase this so it doesn't beep so early like we did in the last video. Put her to 100, that way we don't have to worry about early beeps. Okay. running about 5.5 amps. We'll start pulling. We're at 20, 30, 40, 50, just about 65, 75, cut off right about 79. So the Brad pen actually stopped the machine right around, it was like 62 to 63. So we went a little bit higher on the foot-pounds, so that's interesting. So ultimately less amps and all. So let's see how the race looks. So wipe the oil off a little bit. Wipe the race off so you can see the race. Just seeing if there was any more spots that might have been more damaged than the rest. Sometimes it does. So the race looks pretty decent. It's got a little line around it. Nothing really, a little bit of digging into the race, you can see right about there, but nothing too terrible. Now let's see the scar. So trying to focus in here, you can kind of see the glare from my light is kind of hurting the video here, it looks like. Let's see if I can. They're actually very similar as far as the wear scars go. There we go, that's a little bit better. So they're actually very similar. I mean, it might be a little bit smaller, but pretty good. I mean, realistically, the Vr1 actually took a lot more pounds than the Brad pen did. Well, not really a lot more. It took about 10 to 12 more, which more is more. Essentially, that oil takes a little bit more force to break it down to metal where it stops protecting it, and that's when it starts digging into this. So, I mean, for an affordable oil that you can get anywhere, I would probably have to say that it's either slightly better or equivalent to the more expensive oil, which I've been running in my car for years because I thought it was the bee's knees. But essentially, I could have just been going to the auto parts store instead of paying $100+ a case for this and bought Vr1, and essentially I would have had the same results according to this. I know some guys run Vr1. Recently I learned that several people run Vr1 more than I knew. Even people that I know run Vr1. You always heard the stories in the past of, oh, well, the Vr1 8 cams, this, that, and the other, which, you know, in a locked VTEC engine, there's so many variables that, yes, you need a good oil, but there's so many other variables that people weren't putting into it. They're just like, oh, my engine ate this cam. Meanwhile, they could have screwed multiple things up that actually caused the cam wear, and it wasn't the oil's fault to begin with. So, I myself in the past, when I first started with the locked VTEC stuff, I ate a cam up really quick within a couple heat cycles. And it ended up being something that was essentially my fault. I didn't know that you had to make sure on the VTEC block-off plate that you cut back the O-ring. So essentially it was cutting oil flow off to part of the valve train. So was it anyone's fault but mine? It was only my fault. Did I know? No, but I learned. So basically this is just another thing that we're learning. You don't have to obviously spend $100+ on a case of oil to get very similar results. You can get Vr1 at any auto parts store for the most part. So it's like last minute you're like, hey, I want to go racing, and you're like, crap, I don't have enough oil or whatever, you know. You just go right down the street, get some Vr1, and obviously it's going to work just as well as the pen grade. Obviously saying that your engine's set up correctly, etc. Failures are going to still happen no matter how good your oil is. I might get into testing some additives with the oils at some point. I have really no intention of testing straight additives. I'm not a real believer in additives. Never really have been. But it's not saying that one additive or so could improve a great oil. But from the research that I've done, spoken to quite a few oil companies, racing oil companies at that, and what they were saying was you got to be careful with additives because they put their own additive package into their own racing oil. Each one has their own thing. That's why they advertise we have this much zinc, we do this, phosphorus, etc. Well, when you start putting other additives in there, the additives can actually counteract them, and you can take a great oil and actually make it worse. Not saying it always happens. I obviously haven't tested this yet, but this is the knowledge that the oil manufacturers, the racing oil manufacturers, have given me. So obviously I want to put that to the test in the future. There's a couple additives out there that, you know, I've seen had got real big, and I'm kind of curious myself to, you know, are they worth it? Do they actually do anything? But would I just pour it in my car and go with it? No. I would rather see the damage on this machine than put it in my engine and possibly do damage to my engine that's going to cost me thousands. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe, like, share, and I look forward to making more videos in the future. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.